This side of the tape is from a joy and worship service at Carmel in the Valley in August 1979. Paul has just finished reading an excerpt from Richard Bach's book, Illusions. He begins his talk with a commentary on the book and continues with stimulating thoughts on being a master of your own life. We have found this lecture to be extraordinarily interesting and helpful in our daily lives. And now, Paul Solomon.
I really would like to see everyone read the book a few dozen times and perhaps go past being entertained by it. It's delightful just to think that all those things might be possible. And there's just one more thing that I can think of that's more delightful than reading that book and thinking that all of those things just might be possible, and that is living that way. Quite frankly, it takes guts. It means sacrificing your boredom. It means making different choices. But it's such a puzzle when you watch people make choices to be overworked, to be put upon. When you see people choose to be unhappy about the way someone else is creating their reality. It makes no sense to watch people choose to experience something and be miserable about their experience and insist on being sure that somebody else created it. It probably makes less sense in this community than anywhere else I know in the world. So many times we have said to each other over and over and over, "You are not a victim. I am not a victim. What I feel is not caused by your action. What you do does not decide what I experience. What I experience and what I feel, my emotions and my feelings and my well-being are all a matter of choice. And it is not your choice, it's my choice. My feelings are my choice. Your feelings are your choice. You are not happy or unhappy because you have enough, don't have enough, have too much, too little. You are not happy because your health is good. Your health is good because you're happy. You're not happy or unhappy because of any external condition. Our language is filled with suggestions to the contrary, but our language is filled with lies. If our language is filled with lies, our life is filled with lies, and we communicate them to one another, and we live obedient to the lies. And probably the greatest fun of it all is to realize that's all right. It's quite all right. It's all right for us to continue doing that, especially if we know it's our choice. It's quite all right for anyone to be miserable, especially if they admit that it's choice. Perhaps that's just another form of happiness, being happy to be miserable. Somehow it doesn't quite make sense to me, but it's all right. There are a lot of people who believe that messiahs and spiritual teachers are supposed to change that, destroy that, destroy your right to be miserable when you want to be. But of course, one can't destroy your right to be miserable when you want to be without destroying your right to be happy when you want to be. We just live in a cause-effect universe, and the cause is your creative consciousness. We live a cause-effect universe, and the cause is your creative consciousness. You live in the world of your creation, and you can find other explanations. You can find things to say, but this is happening in my life. And of course, that's objective. It is happening in your life. The only problem is the therefore that goes at the end of that sentence. This is happening in my life, therefore I am miserable. The therefore doesn't work. This is happening in my life, and I'm miserable because I want to be miserable, because of my belief about what's happening in my life. Or, this same thing is happening in my life, and I am living and experiencing and expressing pure joy just because I want to. And it has nothing to do with that is happening in my life. Except that I have chosen to experience that. I have collected experiences that are entertaining. And there's no boredom. And in order to fill my life and to keep it from being boring, if what I choose to do is be ridiculously overworked, that's one choice. Then what would happen if I made another choice? Well, perhaps the job wouldn't get done. And what would happen if the job doesn't get done? Why not compliment God? Why not compliment the source of this universe by saying, you have created an absolutely delightful, deliriously delightful experience. And instead of believing that you meant for me to suffer and work and hurt and stress and strain, why don't I assume that you love me so much that you expect me to be what Richard Bach said I am, one of the otters of the universe, designed to play. I said that to an audience once, and some little old lady said, that's hedonistic. And it probably is. But if there is such a thing as hedonism, God invented it. Blame him. He had to have thought of it first, or it wouldn't be here. The old-fashioned morality speaks of loving God. And I think that's beautiful. If you love God, then you're attracted to what God is attracted to, and you do things that God would do. If you love stress and strain and hurt and evil and pain, then you're attracted to them and you court them and you make love to them and you have children by them. Hear that. You get impregnated by what you make love to. And you give birth to its children. If you're impregnated by God, you give birth to the Christ. If you're impregnated by pain and hurt and evil and stress and bitterness, anger with each other, competition with each other, you give birth to struggles and arguments and more hurt and more pain, little children of evil. and perpetuate it. We're all mothers. See how much freedom of interpretation there is to that? We're all mothers, we all bear children, and we live with the children in this incredibly fascinating world. Why not just experience it as the wonderful fascination that it is? Find out how fascinating people are around you. And it's all right. It's all right to have fun. It's even all right to laugh at how ridiculous it is when people are refusing to have fun and doing something else. I mean, it must be meant as entertainment. It's too ridiculous to be anything else. Then why not laugh? I mean, the old motto says, have pity. Get down there with them and wallow in their misery along beside them. I never saw that bring anyone out of misery. It seems somehow more appropriate to just get hysterical. Laughing at how ridiculous it is to be there when you have choice. You are a divine creative being. And you can choose this day to prove it. You can take an incident that has been repeating in your life, and I guarantee you one is going to happen to you today. Within 24 hours, I promise. I spoke with God and said she'd do it. Within 24 hours, you'll have a repeat of some situation that you think has made you miserable in the past. And you can respond right on cue with your customary misery if you want. But if you think about it, you'll giggle. You'll laugh at it. You'll see how silly it is. And if you want to, you can prove that you're a creator by deciding, I am going to have a ball right in the middle of this crazy situation and see what happens. See if I can experience it differently than I've experienced it before. And see what the result is. Now, the result may be that the situation gets worse. And if it does, then you have another chance to laugh and to respond a new way to that. And on and on. But wherever it takes you, and however complicated the situation gets, the interesting thing is that you will enjoy all of it if you have chosen to do so. And that is your choice. All of that, of course, is an absolute mind bender to people who have never been nervy enough to try it, do it. And to those who have, well, they've already done it. So I'm not talking to you, those of you who have already done it, but the rest of you. You have an option to step into a different world than the one that you've lived in. And it may be better, may be worse. The one thing I can promise is it's not boring. And I can't think of anything more boring than continuing what you've been doing. Just going on and on and on with this victim consciousness in this victim society that says, you are supposed to have your feelings hurt if I insult you. Therefore, I'm in charge of how you feel. And I can make you feel bad on cue because I know how to insult you. And you have no right to be happy unless I'm doing something that makes you happy. What is all this? Externalization of control of how I feel and what my life is. Let's love each other enough to let each other be miserable without joining. Let's love each other enough to be joyous and set a model for the person at the next desk or at the next job, the next row. Let's have a ball being here, at least a few of us, and see if it's catching. I mean, after all, if illness is transmittable, why not health? Maybe someone will catch it. We'll start an epidemic. What a nice way of healing people. Start an epidemic of health. Want to try it? You know, it may seem ridiculous, may seem naive, but I really believe all these things. I'm really willing to work at it. And see if we can make it work with each other. Clean up our language, clean up our communications with one another, clean up the way we are responding to one another, clean up our beliefs about ourselves and the cause of how we feel at all times, and to demonstrate a whole new way. I think we can heal the planet, and I think it's why we're here. It's an option I'd like to take. And that's an invitation. Join me.